Well, the Green Bay Packers sure know how to break Lions fans' hearts. Hello and welcome to Lions Postgame Live Week 17 edition presented by Sling. I'm Tori Petry, joined by Lions legend Herman Moore. The Lions fell 23-20 on a walk-off field goal from the Packers today at Ford Field. Herman, this loss felt reflective really of that last game in Green Bay and of the Lions' whole season. What happened today? Well,
it's been that they've been close, but not close enough. This was another opportunity for the Lions to close their season, which has not been the best season for them, obviously. On a positive note, I think the positive that you take from this is that the team did continue to compete. I was very concerned with whether or not the Lions and the players that they did have available, Tori, would be available to come out with the right attitude for this last final home game. But to their credit, at least they competed, they played well. Green Bay really needed this game, and the Lions took them all the way down to the stretch.
Yeah, this game meant a lot for Green Bay. I mean, they are playing for their playoff seeding, and you know, they were able to come away with the win today, but it looked like the Lions might be able to play spoiler for them, and that would have been a big deal because this Week 17 game really didn't mean anything for the Lions, but they really wanted to get a win to finish out their season.
I think the fans, for those of us who were in the stadium, the fans and the players, by just the atmosphere, they really wanted this game.
Yes.
This was not a meaningless game for this organization. It wasn't a meaningless game for this team. Although on paper it may seem that way, this was really a game that was about the character, whether or not this team would fight, and also whether or not the fans would just sit back and just allow this team to go off without applauding them. I think this has not been the greatest of years. There's a lot that we can attribute that to, but at the end of the day, you have to pick up the pieces. You can't worry about what has happened here. You have to go back and figure out how do you correct it. Can it be corrected? We'll see. We'll see this offseason with the draft. We'll see this offseason also with free agency.
Well, you talked about the players that were available today, and goodness, this was a ragtag group that the Lions had out there on the field. A bunch of backups stepping in for guys who were injured. The Lions have 16 players on IR right now. Half of them are starters. They lost 2 more starters in this game. Kenny Golladay and Devon Kennard both left the game with injuries, but these backups were able to step in and play really well against a Green Bay team that had a lot on the line.
I thought the backups definitely stepped in, and that's what you want to see as a coach. If I'm looking at the organization, when you have players go down, it's going to be really about the depth of your team, the depth of the players that you have in key positions. You're going to lose players, but at the end of the day, what do I have to work with, especially coming into the offseason? You don't want to have guys going down, but it does give you a little bit more footage to evaluate really what this team has to offer and what you need to pick up pieces on in the offseason. So I look at it as you just have to move forward. There really wasn't a whole lot to salvage other than, like I said before, the intangibles, the character, and whether or not this team was going to stay mentally focused for this game.
Well, we saw at the end of the game the Lions had a chance to go down and score and potentially win this game after the Packers tied things up, but just wasn't able to make it happen. I mean, it felt a little bit like that last game in Green Bay earlier this season. Of course, without a little bit of the controversial calls that happened in that game earlier this season, but the Lions had a chance to go down and win it. They weren't able to do it, and then the Packers go and milk the clock and were able to hit that last-second field goal. And we've seen that, and we've talked about it so much here on the post-game show for the Lions, just about how they have had chances to win it and just haven't really been able to put the final pieces together in the final minutes of the fourth quarter.
I mean, I think we've become very spoiled. When we look at Matt Stafford and the way that he's been able to forge these fourth-quarter comebacks, you haven't seen a lot of that in the last 7-8 weeks of the season. However, you talk about that was a long last 2 minutes of a football game because I thought they both had a couple of opportunities to wrap it up, but neither team really could move the needle. Green Bay was able to come off and roll off the really big run right in the final drive, and then ultimately they just need to run a couple of plays to kill the clock, take away the Lions' timeouts, and that cost them. That was the end of the game. But it was one that the Lions got out, they jumped out early. I really felt the momentum was in their favor. I felt this was a team that had put Green Bay on their heels, and they had to really go back and adjust at halftime. And this was a team that was competing for a lot, and the Lions had them on their heels. So, there are no second-place prizes for this, but at the end of the day, you hope that they do better next season.
Well, you certainly do, and it's very Aaron Rodgers, very Packers of them to be able to come back after trailing pretty much the whole game there and win this one. But Of course, the Lions are pretty disappointed in this one. I was impressed, though, with the fight that this team showed. And there were a lot of really fun moments in this game, even though it was Week 17 and there was not a lot on the line for the Lions. First off, you come out with a trick play. How much fun was that, watching Danny Amendola make a touchdown pass to David Blau?
I was actually jealous. I didn't get a chance to throw a touchdown pass in my career. Brett Perriman got a chance to throw a football. Johnny Morton got a chance to throw a football, both incomplete to Barry Sanders, I think. And
that's offensive. You should have gotten your
I think
chance.
Barry had at least one completion from a receiver, but that was a great call. I thought that really energized this football team. We call it trick plays. I think they call it strategy, and it worked. And those are the things I think keep the fans motivated and encouraged. But you saw the team also was coming out to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if it isn't a trick play, then it's not Week 17. Week 17 is when we see a lot of these trick plays. We saw that Matt Prater touchdown last year in Green Bay in Week 17. So it's becoming a Week 17 tradition for the Lions. Hopefully, though, in future Week 17s, they are playing with something on the line, and they need to pull out those trick plays to really secure something down the line. But still, really fun to watch. I thought that the Lions were able to put on a good show for the Ford Field crowd here. Several really fun plays in this game. Kenny Galladay's deep touchdown pass, obviously, he went out of the game after that, was evaluated for a concussion, but that was a great throw by David Blau to Kenny Galladay.
It was, and Kenny Galladay has been just a great player to watch this season, and to see how he has continued to evolve and mature as a player. And he's one of those bright spots that when you start talking about what's going to be there for the Lions next season, Kenny Galladay is definitely one of those players. It was great to see Kerryon Johnson back in the lineup, making some big plays, running hard, and you see the dynamics of what this offense brings when they have it. And that's, again, without a Matthew Stafford. That's without Marvin Jones in the lineup as well. So you have a good nucleus, a good core of guys that can make plays in the skill position. But I don't know what more there is to say other than I was, at least as a fan, as an alum, happy to see that this team came out and they at least fought. They fought against a team that had everything and they didn't have anything really to play for.
All right, we have much more to discuss on the post-game show, but why don't you take a look at a couple of those fun plays from today, including that trick play. Here they are.
Matched up against Jair Alexander. Here, a little trickery. Oh, look, looking for a throw. Amendola's got a man open, and he's got it for the touchdown! David Blau with his first career touchdown catch! He'll get it off. Blitz is coming. Rodgers in trouble, and down he goes! They'll run it to Johnson, who is in for the touchdown! We'll get you updated on all those scenarios as the Lions will run it to Johnson, who's got a big run. Actually, it's Johnson. Look at this cut. Ty Johnson, the rookie. Shorter. Prater hits it deep, hits it right down the middle. Wow, what a kick. Hold is high and down. Crosby's kick is up, and it is good! And the Green Bay Packers have a first-round bye in the playoffs. A last-second win again, 23-20.
Would you rather sling in or go to a party? For Pepper, the dog. Who's ready to party? Perfect. Oh, no! Rabies outbreak! Better get home right away. Rabies? Oh, slang. My man Leroy. Top-notch acting.
Nothing beats the joy of slinging in. You could save hundreds a year versus cable with America's #1 live TV streaming service. Learn more at sling.com.
All right. Is this for me, or am I afraid to open this here? Yeah. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I mean, obviously, the team fought as hard as we could. I think, really tried to do everything we could to give ourselves a chance. Obviously, we needed to make a couple more plays. Give Green Bay credit; they made some plays at the end, especially that they needed to win. I think this team, like I've said all year, and I think today was another great example of how hard this team works, how hard they fight. I think we probably played a ton of guys here today, rolled a lot of bodies through, and a lot of guys that haven't even played an NFL game before went out and played as hard as they could to give ourselves a chance. And I'm proud of the toughness of this team. I think it's the foundation of what we're looking for. I think we want to be tough. I think we want to be a team that competes, and I think we're a team that wants to go out and try to work hard every single day. We obviously got a lot of work to do here. We understand that. We'll close out tomorrow with the team. Be able to have our last squad meeting there and kind of address some of the the things as we go forward. But certainly just proud of these guys, proud of that locker room for as hard as they work and they fight. I know to a lot of people there wasn't much on the line, but to us there is every single week. We're going to go out and we're going to compete and we're going to play that game and we're going to do everything we can. We have an opportunity to go compete in the National Football League. I think you should do everything possible to do your best. So. I think the team in that locker room does that really well. We just got to make some more plays to win. I think that's the bottom line.
Matt, speaking of that toughness, Damon Harrison's a guy that regularly fights through injuries. We've seen the different types that he's fought through all through the season. Yeah. We just spoke to him in the locker room, and he's said he's very seriously considering retirement, just with the pain he's in and the performance he's been able to give. You know better than probably most what he's fought through this year. Do you help a player navigate through some of those life decisions, or is that something each player has to decide on their own?
Well, I think there's obviously all different ends of the spectrum with how you help guys. Certainly that's why we're here. That's why I'm a coach and try to do everything I can to assist those guys, and not only in the game of football, but in anything outside of football they need help with. For us, my message is always pretty clear to the players. I think, just take a minute. It's an emotional game. We just got done playing a really hard game. We just got done playing a really physical, competitive game, and emotions are high, as they always are after a football game, and everyone's just got to kind of let all that settle. But, in the end, we'll just, get to whatever points we get to with any guys on our team and address them when they come up. But right now is really not the time, for any of that for myself, certainly, to, get into with those guys.
It doesn't sound like you're surprised by the snap set. These conversations you've had with him in the last few weeks or whatever.
I would say I'm probably not surprised, just because I've coached, quite a few years and had guys in different stages of their careers and understand, just the emotional part of finishing up a game. So, I mean, for me, it's I'm just trying to stay consistent, and make sure that everybody understands, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, about just letting everybody kind of, it's a long season. It's a long grind. Everybody's, working as hard as we worked, and trying to do everything we can, that all that needs to settle. And then, I think you have different conversations.
At the other end of that spectrum, you got Kurt coming back and playing. He finished, and both of them are carrying the next season.
Yeah, I think Ty too. I mean, he ran the ball well today too. So I mean, I think for us, the run game is going to be a big part of what we do. It's going to be a big important part of what we try to get done as an offense. And I'm proud of Kerryon for coming back. I think it shows his competitive nature. I think it shows the type of guy he is, the type of football player he wants to be. And certainly with Bo and Ty and DJ and or JD and even Wes Hills, I think those guys every single day came in and worked hard to try to get better and compete. So. For me, I was happy to see those guys go out and run as hard as they could today. And from that aspect of it, I thought the O-line tried to really do a good job with the blocking too in the run game, and that was good to see.
Snacks didn't have a snack kind of year, but it's not just something you've had a ton of injury in that position as well in the interior there. How has the interior defensive line, the play there, affected the struggles you've had defensively?
We'll obviously take our time, go back through and look at all of it, from that aspect of it. I certainly think that just in general, we've had a bunch of different bodies maybe in the front, in the linebacker core, in just moving guys around and guys in and out. And I think that's always difficult. I think it is hard in those situations to get the continuity that you're looking for, especially in run defense, things like that. But it's part of the game. Injuries happen, and just, again, give those guys credit for fighting through, and obviously Damon, same thing, fighting through, every week to go out and do everything he could to help us. So, I appreciate that a lot.
You had some emergency options it seemed in play. So you had a linebacker playing fullback, you had Agnew in there, probably more receiver reps than you would have imagined. What kind of depth issues does it speak to here down the stretch that you guys are facing? You're playing guys essentially out of position.
Yeah, I don't know if it speaks to depth issue or maybe the flexibility of some of the players we have. I think when you have 46 active, you got to be ready for certain situations. I think in any position group, if you lose 2 guys, you're in a lot of trouble. I've certainly played before with wide receivers that have played DB for me in big games, and just understanding that injuries are going to be a part of it. But the more you can do and the more value you can add, to the team in different positions or different situations, then, the better the team we're going to be from that standpoint. So certainly I think there was reasons for some of it. We had a lot of guys banged up. We had a lot of injuries from that standpoint, so guys had to step up in different areas and give them credit for doing that. But again, I think that shows, the versatility and the flexibility of understanding that in the NFL, when that stuff happens, somebody's got to step up into a role and go out and try to perform at a high level. And, I thought those guys were trying to do that today.
Didn't seem like he wanted to take his pads off. He was so excited to get out there. Continuing a tradition since 34, local kid playing for the Lions. His work all year, all season, all this training camp. He was really excited to get out there.
Yeah, and I was excited for him to be out there. I think he's a guy that's, since we got him going back in the spring, has really just gotten a lot better, really through the spring and then into training camp. You could really see him kind of improve, and you could see that kind of potential moving forward that he might be able to help us, and give him credit for just grinding every single day to stay consistent with it. He's a great kid. He works really hard. He's the same guy every day in the building, and that consistency is what allows us to kind of build upon, his ability every single day. And, he had a great opportunity today, and certainly he went out and did everything he could to help us. He played special teams, he played defense, and really, honestly, without missing a beat, which is really hard because we had a lot of different packages today, and we were in a situation where we needed him to go out there, and he's another one of those guys that was flexible to be able to play a couple different positions, and he did that. So I was really happy for him, and he's such a great kid, and he's working as hard as he can to try to help this team and be part of the foundation of this team.
See more questions? At the start of that game-winning drive, Tavon got hit with the penalty.
Yeah.
It seems like a smart quarterback can kind of weaponize that rule. How do you coach that differently to help those guys avoid a late slide like that?
Yeah. I'm going to take a look at it. Certainly I saw one thing live. But the officials are the ones that see it, and they got to call it, and we got to protect. Player safety is important, and that's the first and foremost with all that. So, but I'll take a look at it, and certainly there's coaching points usually in those situations that you can come up with, through the film and help those guys.
Second straight year, you guys have had a successful trick play in the last game of the season. Is there an extra incentive to kind of empty the playbook in a game like this?
Yeah, or against Green Bay. Honestly, just a lot of those plays that we have, we'll work on them through the course of the season. And sometimes they come up in the games that we can call them, and sometimes they don't. And certainly we had one dialed up that we'd been working on for a while, and we're just kind of waiting for the right situation. And obviously, we couldn't really wait past today, so thought we'd take a shot. Yeah, we got a couple. Yeah, yep. And just, every week trying to work on it. So, what else?
Last one, guys. Pretty emotional talking about his future and whatnot. Yeah. From your perspective, his struggles with his injuries and trying to be the player that he still feels mentally he is, but physically may not be able to. How difficult is that to kind of deal with throughout a season for a player, and it affects your team as a whole, too?
Yeah. I think obviously he probably spoke to, his own personal situation. But I'd say just kind of repeat what I said before. I give him a lot of credit. He came out every single week and tried to do everything he could to help us and battling through all that stuff and show up on Sundays and try to be the anchor in the middle of our defense. So just appreciated his, his efforts to do that every single week and how hard he worked to do that. It's a violent game, especially in the middle, and he's in there every single week trying to slug it out. So appreciated that a lot.
I'm sure somebody asked me just to make sure Marvin the whole situation. I know some players in the locker room talked about how wanted to win for him, just how tough this was for you. You get through something like that, what do you tell your team?
Yeah.
And what do it mean to have him here for them today?
I'll probably keep all that private. You know, Marvin is a very special person. His family's it's a wonderful family. He and Jasmine are great people, and you know, my heart is just so you know, saddened for them and with them right now. So I was very happy to see him today. So that's it. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions for Coach Patricia about this past season. Had to say after the game.
Some of the things that we talked about earlier, Tori, he was happy with the effort of this team. He was happy with the fact that the team came out and they competed, and that's one of the things that he looked at. And then also the fact that he's got multiple players that are having to step in because they have some depth issues because so many guys are injured and they've had to kind of move some people around. And he's happy with the fact that they've stepped in and had that flexibility.
All right, David Blau's at the podium. Here's what he has
Say
to
that
say.
again?
How are your hands?
They're all right. A great call by Bev, and Danny threw a great ball. Couldn't have been more open. So,
Can you just walk us through the play, what you saw and how it worked?
I think, you know, Bev's been running it for years, wherever he's been at, and you know, we've got some alerts on it, see if it's man or zone, and you know, nobody's got the quarterback in man coverage, so you know, it's just a kind of a fun play we've had in a couple different times this year, and just got it off the card, and awesome timing for the call, and Danny sold it great. That's how you hope it comes out. Say that again. Really, when it came in the huddle and when I saw who was out guarding the tight end.
Celebration to keep the ball.
No, you know, I feel bad because I could have given it to Danny. I think it was the second of his career, but I don't know. I was kind of excited, obviously. So, well, I don't really remember it all that great, let's be honest.
Balls in the air, what's going through your mind as you're out there?
Don't drop it, for sure. No, you don't think about that. You play football. You've been catching passes in the yard as a kid. We ran it a bunch of times in practice, and you just catch it, and kind of knew I was open. Had a couple catches in college, but this was a pretty special one.
You guys came out with some fire today after the first play, but full team defensively as well. Is that any different? Was there any extra motivation for this one particularly, or?
You know, everybody was definitely inspired. Wanted to play for our family that was hurting, to tell you the truth. And, you know, we just came out and played. We were playing hard, and guys were executing well. And, you know, it's a bummer we couldn't finish it. But the guys were definitely playing inspired, obviously. And we've been thinking about Marvin and his family a ton. Yeah.
How about the interception? What did you see in that? You saw it was on the front. You can walk us through what happened.
Yeah, they got me. You know, it was a good play, good call by the defense. Had me dialed up, and just got me caught in the wrong side of the field, and then I made a bad play worse by trying to force it in there. It was just a bad bonehead play on my part. It can't happen, especially in a critical part of the game, and really hurt us there at the end. Oh, it's not up to me to decide. You know, I think Coach and Bob know that I've given everything I got. You know, that's just who I am. I'll do everything I can for them giving me the opportunity. I'm thankful for them for the opportunity. I'm thankful for Matthew. I'm thankful for Jeff. I wouldn't have been able to take the field without my coaches and those guys. And you know, they'll make those decisions. I try to go out and play ball and do the best I can every week.
What did you see in Tori, I know as you were able to play with him these last couple of years, what did you see him? What did you think that if he is what he is, what he is offense?
All right, what a tough guy, right? I mean, no reason for him to risk it, I guess. But he put his heart on the line for the team, put his body on the line, and had some great runs. And just his toughness and football IQ, he puts us in a position to win games. And you know, you're confident in him when he's back there, and it's great as you know, as a young guy, feels like he's much older than he is when he's standing next to you, helping you out, and yeah, Carry-on's a warrior, that's for sure.
David, when you started in this role, you had maybe one of the best wide receiver teams in football with Kenny and Marvin by the end of the day, playing with a lot less experience out there. I'm sure those guys are giving it all, but what was I guess the challenge of having that inexperience mixed with maybe some of your own inexperience?
Yeah, that's that's definitely part of it. Experience carries a lot of weight, and obviously Marvin and Kenny are a great tandem and led the league in touchdowns and things like that all throughout the year, and they're great players. And you know, Coach Patricia preaches it is that next guy up, and no matter whoever it was, you know, Agnew or Lacey or Travis, we got to step up and make plays. And I know those guys gave everything they had today, and you just learn from it, like I've been able to do over the last 5 weeks, and you use it to get better.
Cool, thanks guys.
Thank you, David.
Want to stay home and sling, but you don't have a good excuse?
You gonna come by?
I would, but I've got laryngitis. I mean laryngitis. My cat might die. I would, but I totally don't want to.
Get the #1 live TV streaming service for less at sling.com.
Welcome back to Lions Postgame Live, presented by Sling TV. I'm Tori Petry. This is Herman Moore. We are talking about the Lions' 23-20 loss to the Green Bay Packers here in Week 17. In Week 17, these games have a lot of implications for the NFL draft. So let's talk about what that means for the Lions. A little bit of discussion on the fan side of whether it was to win or lose based on the draft position in this game. But here's what happens because they ended up losing to the Packers. They will either pick with the second or the third pick in the 2020 NFL draft. If the Redskins are able to beat the Cowboys today, that means the Lions would be picking with the #2 pick in the 2020 draft, but that is of course dependent on the Redskins. The Cowboys lead the Redskins right now, so we'll see what ends up happening in the game. Lions fan, you're probably a Redskins fan this afternoon because you're rooting for the Lions to get that #2 pick in the draft. From a player perspective, how much do you pay attention to what's going on with the draft in Week 17?
I think if I'm a player, the only time I'm paying attention to it is if my position is one that they may look to select a player for that's going to bump me down the depth chart. Otherwise, you're not really focused on that. I think that's more of the player personnel department. Those are your scouts. Those are the team guys upstairs that are looking at, okay, how can we find the right player that's going to help this team? They're in coordination with Bob Quinn and also with Coach Patricia and his staff on what they need from a depth position. What can I have that's going to make this team better? So right now, if they're able to get a #2 pick without having to trade or give away anything to move up a spot, that's obviously most beneficial. So we'll see what happens there.
We'll see if the Redskins are able to come through and help the Lions out to get that #2 pick. Of course, the lowest they'd pick is #3. Miami helped them out a little bit by winning today and beating the Patriots. So that was pretty big for the draft position as well. Certainly an interesting game there with Miami taking the win today over New England. So the game you want to watch this afternoon is Cowboys-Redskins. Of course, after you finish watching Lions Postgame Live, because we still have more to discuss. But speaking of college football, Herman, I hear you and I have a little bit of a matchup happening this week. Our two schools are playing in their bowl game this week, so I just have to add a little Go Gators in here while we're on the topic.
Who's nation?
Gators versus Virginia in their bowl game. We'll see whether I or Herman are able to win in that game. I disagree. Let's get back to talking about this game between the Lions and the Packers. One of the things that stuck out to me today was the run for the Lions. We saw them do the running back strategy today. I mean, 171 rushing yards for the Lions, 160 between those 3 running backs that they had rotating in there, and it was pretty evenly split between Ty Johnson, Kerryon Johnson, and Bo
Scarborough, and I call them the Johnson & Johnson boys.
There we go. I like it.
That was a good tandem. I thought they went in and they gave Green Bay's defense quite a bit to deal with. And what I liked is the fact, if you look at how the Lions controlled the football game, it was when they had the running attack in full effect.
Sure.
And it gave them a position to where, on one-sided type of play calling, it gave them opportunity to spread the field, also to work inside and put a little pressure on the defensive coordinator to figure out what the Lions going to do with their playbook, and it opened it up quite a bit.
Well, it's a glimpse at what the Lions could be in the future with this running back group that they have right now, because these are all young guys that they have in the backfield. I mean, Ty Johnson is a rookie this year. He had that big run that set up Matt Prater's field goal before the half. That was a huge play for the Lions. With 20 seconds left to go before the half, they were able to kick a field goal thanks to that big run from Ty Johnson. And you look at those 3 guys and what they were able to do today, I think that's a glimpse of what this backfield could be in the future.
It is a glimpse, and also they bring different things to the table. You got some that come with speed. You got Kerryon, who brings power, but he also can be a pass catcher out of the backfield. And then with Scarborough, you have another player who has kind of a combination of both and all of it. So there's a good trio there of running backs, and obviously those things can change between now and next year. But for now, have a healthy backfield. These are very competent guys.
Well, we heard from Matt Patricia and David Blau at the podium. You and I were listening to these 2 guys. I mean, we heard Matt Patricia talk about this team and about some guys who maybe are considering retirement after this game. Snacks Harrison was in the locker room discussing that topic with reporters. He was really emotional after the game, discussing what that meant for him. Of course, Matt Patricia said, these guys need to take a beat and think about this, because you're always emotional after you finish a game like that.
It is. You walk into the locker room. It's been a long season. It's been a little emotional for them, and that takes a lot out of you, both mentally and physically. You have to stand back and say, let me evaluate this before you make any really rush judgments or decisions on what you're going to do with your career. But for Snacks, these are guys who have had some pretty decent careers, and they are at a point where they start to think about how do you wind it down and how do you make sure you don't stay beyond your time.
Well, Darius Slay spoke with reporters in the locker room as well. Here's what he had to say.
There's weight on my shoulder. I pray for him, and I just want to go out there and compete on a high level for him. You know, and that's very, very big, man. I'm still here for his family, man. Hopefully he getting through it, man. I know he's a great father, man, and he gonna keep doing what he's doing.
Did you get a chance to talk to him this morning? We saw him on the
Yeah, I talked to him. Of course I talked to him. You know, just checking on him, man. You know, I'm trying to give him their space, you know. But it was a great surprise for him to come here to support us, man, to see his face, man. It lit me up, man. Gave me a whole nother boost that I was already going in with, and I just I gotta go out here and try to dominate right now, you know. So I was trying to.
Did y'all know he was coming at all, or?
We kind of knew, like, I saw him right when I ran out, so I saw him on the sideline, you know. I said, oh, man, ball game. So I, dapped him up, man. Told him I love him. You know, hugged his wife. You know, she hugged my wife, pretty cool. So, you know, it's all a family.
There's still too close to the end of this game to think about the season, reflecting kind of bigger picture on this whole year and why it went the way it went.
We just got to finish. So that's I know for a fact that's gonna be the main focus I'm on all season. Slay find ways to finish. Slay find ways to make plays. Try to be a game breaker. That's all my goal is as an off season. You know? So I know Coach gonna have his goals. He gonna probably preach us to it. Let us know what he want us to do and work on. My individual goals is me to be a whole complete better player than I was this year, and try to finish.
Did you have a sense or a feeling anyway this could have been? I'm used to it. It's okay. In any way, maybe you played your last game as a Lion?
No, that was never my concern like that. If I was in my last game, if it is, it is. You know, I play this game. It's a business. I just like to work hard, play the game, and you know, go home and see my kids. So that's never a thought of my process. So it's just, you know, if it is, it is. If it ain't, I'm just here to keep winning, try to win.
This is the way the season went. Do you forget about it or take it and learn? Take it and do you have to forget about the season or take it and then move on? How do you? deal with what kind of season this is? Is it an easy season to forget because of the way it ended?
Yeah, easy for me to forget. Shoot, we ain't win, so shoot, that's very easy for me to get. I'm gonna move on with the whole life, my day, everything. So it's on to the 2020. That's the season I'm looking forward to. New chapter of my life, a new chapter of the whole Detroit organization life. So you're gonna be a lot of new faces. I'm blessed to be around these guys. So it's a whole new path for me.
Well, we've been talking all season on Lions Postgame Live about the results of these Lions games, but now the conclusion of the 2019 season is upon us. Herman, you've been here with us for all of it. How would you sum up how the Lions 2019 season has turned out?
I think there's been opportunities that have escaped this team, and unfortunately they weren't able to capitalize. And there was a time when they had the momentum, but it slipped. And from there, they never really could regain it. But it's not the end of it. I think this is just one of those seasons where it's lost. Only one team's ever going to be champion at the end of the season. So that's what this team has to play for. It has to play for championships, not just to make it to playoffs, not just to get to the dance, but to win it all.
Well, certainly a lot to look for in the offseason. We will have plenty of content on DetroitLions.com as the draft begins to roll around and as all the offseason events happen. But Herman, it has been so much fun hanging out with you on Lions Postgame Live. Thank you so much for doing it all season long.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Tori, and also to our loyal fan base.
It has been, and I also want to give a shout out to the people behind the camera, Joe and Neil behind the camera, Derek behind the live desk. You guys have been awesome in helping this post-game show happen, so we've had a fun time hanging out with you guys. And Herman, this is it for us, so thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
As we close out, we want to remind you guys that Sling does have that offer for you guys to have 40% off your first month of Sling TV if you go to sling.com/Lions. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as we sign off, I just want to offer up our thoughts and prayers to the Jones family as they go through this difficult time. Thank you guys for hanging out with us all season long.